Jupiter at Night is filmed before a live internet audience.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Jupiter at Night. This is the 6th beta of our test run new show. It's always welcoming your feedback, so please let us know in the comments or over at our forum what you think of the show and any ideas you might have it. And we should say it's also a test run of the technology tonight.
We are always doing something new and probably really stupid.
Yeah.
And tonight is no exception. Tonight we're going to try remote broadcasting, basically. Chris is at the studio. I'm not, because I didn't feel like getting out of my pajamas. So
That's not true. You just didn't want to put pants on.
Well, yeah.
So we're going to see how it works, so we'd like to hear your feedback on that, too. The idea for Jupiter at Night is to be in studio, but every now and then you never know. So we want to have that tested and tried out, too, before we're, stuck, committed to doing every single night. We want to have the bugs worked out. Mm-hmm. I have kind of a fun story to share. I don't know how much you heard of this already, Jeremy, but my wife, her mother and stepfather own a restaurant in downtown Seattle.
That much I've heard.
Okay, you did know that. Now, did you know, I think you did know, but did you know that Google visited them recently?
That much I knew as well. But
so it's not actually Google.
No, let me interrupt, because she told me that she was going to tell me this story the other day when I was at your house, and you were like, no, woman, don't tell him.
Oh, really?
Was
I trying to save it for the show?
Yeah.
I'm adorable like that. Well, yeah, so they hire out to this contractor guy. This is Google, and this is part of, I think, the people that do their Street View team and stuff like that for Google Maps. Mm-hmm. And this guy went into their restaurant, and he took just a ton of pictures. But what was particularly interesting, it's the inside of a building, right? That's kind of an interesting new thing for Google, is they're not just content with the Street View anymore. They're going for inside businesses. But unlike the Street View, he was actually using a Canon 5D Mark II, really, really nice camera, taking very, very high-res pictures. And what was interesting is while he was in there, he was taking what's called HDR pictures, high dynamic range, where you take... My rough understanding is, I'm going to offend some photography people here, but my rough understanding is you take 3 different exposure levels and then you combine them together to get one really awesome high-res looking picture. Okay. And so he's doing that, and he's going right up to objects in the restaurant and taking pictures of them. The idea being that people are going to be able to go into Google Maps, walk, he actually took a picture of the front door. He's going to recreate the walking into the restaurant experience, and then he'll have individual eclectic items that are throughout the restaurant that people will be able to click on, and Google Maps will zoom right up to it and get a nice high-res version. And then people are going to be able to tag those pictures with their comments, or even have their own pictures where people can view from items within the restaurant. It's really a wild setup. Here's the thing, too. My wife, Angela, for Jupiter at Night, went down there and got video of the whole thing. Right? So the guy...
do we have that?
No, the guy called up Google, and Google said no.
Oh.
Google said, who are they? He said, Jupiter. He said, Jupiter Broadcasting, and they said, no, we don't want this out on the internet yet. Isn't that funny? So it's kind of going out anyways. But I decided to respect their decision because...
Google knows nothing about our show.
Right. The guy... It was kind of a cool story. The guy had been unemployed for months, and he's a photographer, and he's had 2 months of steady work. Just for the last 2 months, he's been going all around downtown Seattle taking photos of the interior of buildings. I didn't want to ruin this guy's gig after 2 months of unemployment, so I'm not going to roll the video or photos. It's interesting stuff. Also... What's really crazy is they are assigning each location that he takes a picture what's called a QR code. It's basically a barcode, only it's the kind of barcodes that Google likes to use. So every location in their restaurant...
Wait. Google has its own barcode?
Well, it's not really Google's barcode system, but they really embraced it. It's called the QR code system. And it's
Right.
It's kind of cool, but it's weird to think that now they're barcoding basically virtually. What they do is the guy has his Canon 5D Mark II, and he's taking pictures of everything. He's also taking pictures with a Nexus 1 or some sort of Android phone, and he's marking each location with the geolocation and assigning it a barcode as he goes. So Google is barcoding virtually the world.
So it sounds like what they're going to try to end up doing is with Google Earth, eventually you're going to be able to go from Mars and fly past the moon and get down to Earth and then go to Seattle and zoom all the way down to the street and then walk in the front door of the restaurant and then focus on a single fork.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I don't know about a fork, but like a wall fixture. Yeah, isn't that wild?
That's kind of scary.
That is pretty. I mean, it's like, where do you draw the line? Where do you have too much information, right?
Well, until they get really good cameras, they won't be able to get like down to subatomic levels.
That's
for
true.
A couple years.
So I can always keep my atoms private.
Right.
Speaking of that, one of our news stories here
Segway.
Nice. One of the news stories here on Jupiter at Night tonight is the actual size of protons could be 4% smaller than ever previously measured. So we've been wrong this whole time?
Well, not just that, but this means if it's accurate, which, it's a science experiment that doesn't guarantee anything. If it's accurate, that means the entire law of quantum electrodynamics, which tons of other quantum theories are based on.
Right, it's like the foundational. Yeah.
That's wrong.
Changes everything.
It does. I mean, what I think what this basically opens the way for is magic. That's what it seems to me anyway. I mean, when you really think about it, if we're wrong about everything, but it works anyway, there's probably magic.
Yeah, that would mean that maybe it is just using magic all along. Or the transmogrifier. I believe that's a universal thing that just makes everything work. That's what I learned from my sci-fi stories. This is pretty wild to me because it's funny how we can have these, and I'm a pretty scientifically minded guy, but it's funny how we can have these dead set conclusions about stuff that we are absolutely convinced on based on tons and tons of research, and when people have theories that then turn into fact, that's not like a trivial amount of research. A lot of times for some of that stuff, it can be one or many scientists' entire career to prove one theory as fact.
Not even just a theory, but like a single equation, a single piece of an equation can be one scientist's entire career. And to now come to the conclusion that many other equations and theories that have so far seemed to be true might be based upon something that's wrong, that just kind of throws my head for a bit of a loop.
Yeah, it seems like it's a big shift.
Yeah. I'm going to be personally watching this story pretty closely. I have a feeling that this experiment was just wrong, but if it's not, it's pretty cool to watch.
All right, let's talk about this next story, because when it comes down to another thing that I don't understand, that would be the human brain, especially when it comes to relationships. Romantic rejection is its own reward to the brain. Like, the brain actually thrives off of the whole up and down dramatic aspect of relationships, including the rejection part.
Yep.
What's that say to your face? It just says we're fundamentally broken, right?
That explains a lot about human relationship drama and our need for reality television shows and soap operas.
Yeah, there's that. Huh?
It really does. It's stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, it proves fundamentally, I think, that we as a species are, just flawed. We don't belong in this universe. We don't make any sense.
They put people through an MRI scanner, right? And then actively scanned their brains and then gave them different scenarios to reproduce the feeling. And they picked from people that were intensely in love, right?
Yep.
And then they subjected them to different things and then saw how their brain reacted and could actually see their brain, some of the reward centers in their brain releasing different chemicals for even the negative aspects. Even the negative aspects of a relationship, like the fights and stuff, are still releasing some sort of chemical in your brain.
That also trigger the same responses as things like pleasure and addiction. Are the same centers of your brain, the same chemical reactions are triggered by dwelling on negative feelings of like romantic, either rejection or romantic entanglement. It's all the same parts of your brain.
And the brain can actually become addicted to it.
Yes. If you go through romantic rejection enough, you can become addicted to it.
This is a really interesting story over at IO9 that we'll have linked to in the show notes. So if you go over to jupiterbroadcasting.com, look for Jupiter at Night BETA6. Grab the show notes to this story. It's one of those interesting ones that if you have, or maybe you are this person, but if you have one of those friends who always seems to be getting to all these different drama situations, and you just keep going, why the heck do they keep going to themselves? Well, maybe they're an addict. Maybe they have a problem.
I think a lot of people have kind of thought that might be the case for a while now, but this totally nails it home.
Yeah,
I mean, this is chemistry, people. You can't deny brain juices.
You know what we've got to do?
This is real stuff.
We've got to get our buddy John on the show because he loves talking about this chemical that comes from cats.
I thought you were going to make a disparaging comment about his wife, but go on.
No, I just changing topics. It's just because it's one of these crazy theory stories that looks like it's not a theory. It's actually true. But it's like one of these everyday life things that we don't even realize is affecting us and involves our brain chemicals and cats. So we're going to get him on the show probably. We have plans for him down the road, and that's one of the things I got to get him on to talk about because I think people will freaking love that. It's an interesting story. I don't know if you've heard it, but... all right, while we're on the topic of our brain and things that apparently are broken about our brain, let's talk about 3D.
Yeah.
Now, 3D hazardous to your health, huh?
Especially in young children. The whole concept here is that when you are a kid and you're developing your ability to use depth perception for fine motor skills and stuff like that, if you're subjected to too many false 3D images, and I'll get into a little bit of that why later on, but it can basically give you lazy eye permanently.
Interesting. I have issues with 3D beyond the health aspects of it. I've only seen a couple of 3D movies, so I'm not really like an expert. But what I do understand about the technology is, in a lot of cases, they have to actually reduce the overall resolution of the movie. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't know if that's true in all of the theater settings, but I believe it's true in like the home theater settings. And the other thing I don't like about it is there's a pretty fair amount of light that is lost due to like the glasses and things like that. That there's just not enough light is making it from the screen to your eyeball. So there's some fine details that are lost in 3D. And doesn't it seem like, I don't know, we just spent the last 5 to 10 years getting to HD, getting to Blu-ray, getting to all of this amazing, plasma, LED, blacklit, blah, 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 all this stuff we spent all this money on for amazing picture. And then
we just go and shit on it with a new technology.
Right? We get there. As soon as we get there, everybody's like rocking it. People are getting Blu-ray. People are getting HD. It's awesome. You know what we're going to do? Let's lower the resolution.
I blame James Cameron.
Yeah.
The real problem here, though, is that, movies, aside from the quality aspect, this is a very real health concern, especially for kids. But, when you just go and watch one movie a month and it's in 3D, you're not going to feel any ill effects. You might get a little lightheaded when you're walking out of the theater.
If you're a wuss.
Didn't you say you get like dizzy?
No, shut up. No, shut up. God.
Yeah. No, it's true.
No, I don't think I did.
It's true.
But...
You heard it, Internet.
You heard it right here. Yeah. But, what do you think? Have you seen a 3D movie?
I actually haven't. No.
You got to do it. I was more of a hater. I was more of a hater before I saw him.
The last time I saw a 3D movie was with the old red and blue glasses, and it was like an actual film movie.
Yeah, that's not the same thing though, because those, that's a whole different technology.
That's a whole different ball of crap.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the technology that creates these 3D images is not true 3D. I mean, it can't be. It's on a flat screen. The way that the light and the images are overlaid on each other, it forces our eyes to be... those pictures where it looks like... It just looks like a jumble of confetti or something, but if you cross your eyes slightly, then all of a sudden you see like a sailboat or a teapot in the middle of it.
Yep.
That's basically what 3D movies and 3D television incorporate. And it forces your eyes to go slightly out of focus.
So if you're still developing the muscle control of your eyes like a young child might be.
Mm-hmm.
I see.
That's also why it feels slightly disorienting when you go from a 3D movie or 3D television to the real world that is actually three-dimensional. Because you're not...
I got to say, East Coast Girl makes a mention in the chat room, which I'm totally on board with. I still stare at those pictures till today. Like today, if I saw one in the mall, I'm stopping and I'm staring at that thing.
Yeah.
So they work. So I can see what you're saying, but at the end of the day, like I'm an adult now, but I grew up with one of those pictures. Well, not grew up, but I was probably in high school when those pictures were big, and I only see cross-eyed like every other day.
I had a whole book of them that was like 40 pages of those 3D pictures, yeah. Well, and I would look at it all the time.
When you were a kid?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm calling this story bogus. How young were you?
Probably middle school.
Okay, so this
story is talking about kids that are like under the age of 8.
Right.
Yeah, like really still developing.
Well, and theoretically, right, if I was buying a TV today, which, maybe in a couple of years for my upstairs, I might buy a TV. I might if I'm going to do it, buy one that has 3D, right? And so then I'm going to have one in my house. And then, if I have a 3D TV, if they come out with some game that does 3D that I think maybe Dylan would like, I'm going to pick it up. So Dylan could very likely be playing 3D games at like the age of 5 or 6.
Right.
So it could be a real issue for him.
So. Well, and let me take this just a step further, because you and I are kids of the old school
Right.
video games. And you remember the Virtual Boy,
Oh yeah.
NES's thing?
Yep.
Well, at the same time, Sega was developing something called the VR headset. That was
Yeah.
their name for it.
Yeah.
And it was popularized.
Yeah.
People were talking about it everywhere in the media.
Yeah.
Just before, they had like thousands of these already produced and ready to ship, but they had to send it to this independent third-party research institute, and they sent it to, what is it, Stanford Research Institute. And their findings basically came back in big, bold letters. You cannot give this to kids.
No kidding.
For the exact reason that we're talking about now. Now, when Sega got those, they basically buried the devices, shipped them off to some sort of storage facility, buried the reports so that they wouldn't get sued over this, and just let it quietly disappear.
Nice. Well, I mean, that's one of those things where when you have a report that comes out and says you're hurting our kids, there's nothing else that sinks faster in the U.S. is when you do something for the kid, when you do something that hurts the kids.
Especially when you're marketing a device specifically targeting children.
Yeah. While we're talking in the line of video games, yesterday there was a game that was announced that I don't know if we really even talked about very much, and it's this Moonbase Alpha, and it's actually a game from NASA.
Yeah.
And
this is your taxpayer dollars hard at work.
This is definitely your taxpayers hard at work. And I played a very little bit of it. I should say, too, it's based off the Unreal engine, so it's got some actual gaming merit behind it. And it's like the well, I don't know, maybe the conceptual version of what might actually develop into a full space MMO that involves like Mars, Earth, and the Moon.
Well, they've already announced the title of their eventual MMO that's apparently in the works right now. NASA and the team that made America's Army are creating an MMORPG called Astronaut, Moon, Mars, and Beyond.
Now, that RPG is not out yet. Is this so? What we're talking about now is Moonbase Alpha, but it's kind of like a precursor to that.
It's kind of like a proof of concept. I played through the whole thing in an hour. I mean, I beat the game in an hour.
Wow. So is it now, were you just busting out your mad skills, or is it just like not a lot of content?
Well, look who you're talking to, dude.
So use your mad skills.
I can't help but bust out the mad skills.
Right. It just happens accidentally.
It's not hard. It's it's basically you're tooling around on your dune buggy on the moon. Kind of cool, by the way. And then all of a sudden an astronaut hits a local colony and you have to go repair it. And that's basically it. When you're done repairing it, there's nothing else to do. The map is really small.
So it's like an hour of gameplay at most.
Yeah.
Oh, so when I played it, I actually played the main storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, it feels like a tutorial, but it really is just proof of concept. These guys are basically proving that they can create certain types of technology that might be able to be fleshed out into a full game title. That's why it's free. It's less than a beta. It's
and
more like
I don't even know how to get it except for through Steam.
I don't know if it's available anywhere else, to be honest.
Okay.
It might be on NASA's site, but good luck.
Good luck finding it there.
Good luck navigating a government website.
What did you think of the graphics?
It's all right. It's nothing revolutionary.
Yeah, I'll probably check out the actual MMO when it comes out. But
one thing about the graphics that was very disappointing was the fact that the starfield was fake. It says it right in the option screen. You have the option of turning on or turning off the fake starfield.
You have the option to turn on and off a couple of different items. Like there was a couple items on there that were like, this isn't actually how it would be. Now, is that just because if you're actually on the moon, you wouldn't see the stars because the surface of the moon's so bright and the stars are in comparison so dim that the whole sky is just black? Is that?
I've never been to the moon, so I don't really know.
Last time I was there, I do not remember seeing the stars, which, no, I don't know. I just thought maybe that was the case. Yeah, Adam Fusion, and remember, the chat room is always right. Adam Fusion in the chat room says you would not see them.
Okay.
So if he says it, I'm buying it. So.
It's on the internet, so it must be true.
Now, really, the most important thing that people are bringing up is the burning issue that this game raises that is probably going to be one of the most critical things that's talked about because it's a safety issue. Experts believe that this game, this Moonbase Alpha, is encouraging bad space behavior.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's an hour of gameplay. If you've spent your time downloading and installing this game, you want something more than that. So what else is more fun than getting in your dune buggy and driving directly into the colony just to see what happens? Yeah.
Yeah. So
Or,
the idea is that they're
that-
actually suggesting that if you were to play this game and think that's how space was navigated, that when you get into space, which you're probably about to do, what is that? You have a space travel plan next Tuesday, right? Well, then you might kill yourself.
On Wednesday.
Oh,
Right.
Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday.
Yeah, so if you've played this game ahead of time, you're not going to know the actual true tips that you need to know to survive.
That's right. You're probably also going to be under the misconception that plugging your backpack into a dune buggy is how you pilot it.
You know what? I didn't even know that wasn't the case. I also assumed that up on the moon they had supply sheds everywhere that I could walk up to and go get a torch whenever I feel like it and then go fix
Just magically created out of thin air, right?
Right?
It's obviously not a video game. It's a fully fledged simulator.
I assume they have those supply depots all over the moon. I mean, they should by now. We've been there since the 60s.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what came up interesting? I was doing some research on this game. We haven't been to the moon since the late 70s. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Like, within my lifetime, we haven't been to the moon as humans.
I know.
It seems weird to me.
And it's what's weird too is that it's really ever since we started using the shuttles, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've got the International Space Station. That's kind of the space place now.
And we've sent a few robots to Mars. That's not bad.
Right.
So, and I don't think the robots thing is a bad way to go. I mean, that one of those robots just finally shut down like a month or two ago. They got that.
Yeah,
they
like one of the first ones that were sent.
They got some serious. Yeah, I love that. You ever notice NASA does that kind of stuff all the time too?
Mm-hmm.
Like they'll be like, "Yeah, well, we expect to get 4 months, 5 days, 3 hours of performance out of this unit," and then 9 months later, you'll get a press release: NASA rover still running. You're like, "Yeah, you're like, yeah, they knew it would go for 9 months," and then like
the next one that they land, it breaks as soon as it lands.
That's true. But then like 2 years later, they release a press release and they're like, NASA rover is still going. You're like, well, yeah, guys, we know you knew it was going to last this long. But then like when they get to like 3 years and that sucker's still going, okay, now I'm getting impressed. Now, okay, you guys, you build a good rover. You know, that rover, when it went up, it was one of our lead stories on the Linux Action Show because I believe the OS it ran was Linux.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all the stories we have on the news docket for this night.
I wanted to mention that one of my favorite comments on that bad moon habit story.
Yeah.
My favorite comment was, up next, Grand Theft Auto Moonbase.
Yes.
That's really what it was. I mean, once you finish the main story, you just get in your dune buggy and drive all over everything. Which is basically the moon equivalent of picking up hookers and stuff like that.
In Lotso, when we reviewed BioShock 2, I believe my review was it was good, but I was ready for a new environment, and my idea for a new environment was the moon. I thought they should have done BioShock on the moon. Like they should have done like what they did for underwater. They should have done that on the moon. I thought that would have been awesome.
The physics are pretty similar, aren't they?
When you're outside, yeah. So maybe BioShock 3 will be on the moon. That'd be really cool. All right, guys. Well, I think that wraps up this episode of Jupiter at Night. We'd love to hear your feedback, so please let us know in the comments or over on the forum at JupiterColony.com.
I think love is kind of a strong word. We'd like to hear your feedback.
We would tolerate your feedback.
Yeah, that's good. We'll go that way.
All right, guys. And we do this show live, and you can find out when we're doing that over at facebook.com/Jupiter Broadcasting. Or you can always
follow us on Twitter.
Yeah. What's your Twitter handle?
JB Jeremy.
No, nice and easy. Nice and easy. I am
the
Chris
JP stands
LAS.
for Jupiter Broadcasting.
Yeah, see the LAS in Chris LAS and my Twitter handle, the LAS stands for Linux Action Show.
Never heard of it.
No? No. Well, you should check it out sometime. All right, everyone. Well, I don't know when we'll have the next episode. It might be not tomorrow night. We're still kind of toying with the format and things like that. And we also have a few things that we're tracking. I really want to work in more community feedback. I don't know exactly how to do that yet. I don't know if it's live calls or the chat room or maybe email or forum reading. I'm not sure what the best way to do this, but a big priority for me with this show is really involving the viewers. I don't know. It just feels like if you're going to watch something on a daily basis, if you can't interact on it in a more personal level, what's the point of watching it? I mean, I know some of you don't care, but that's kind of that's kind of our line of thought. And if you have any suggestions on how we could do that, we'd love to hear that too, because we're really racking our brain on the best way on a live stream show that happens every night. How do you get people involved? So we'd love to hear your thoughts.
One of the things we do have set up right now, though, that you can get involved with is if you follow Chris on Google.
Yeah, go to my Google profile because we're doing the Buzz feed, which is all the news stories we're going to talk about. Boy, thanks for reminding me.
We basically feed all the stories through his filter, and you can comment on them before we get to the show.
Yeah. Probably the best way to do that is, probably the best way to do that right now is go to bit.ly/Chris Fisher. and then you can
We're gonna
follow
have to
him
get
when he
lower
does.
thirds for this show.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you're right. We are. All right, everyone. Well, until the next episode of Jupiter at Night, thanks for joining us.